Hey, what's up, people? How's it going there? Hey, I got a good one. NI1357. Two or three of you guys have been asking me about him, and he's a writer from Astoria, Queens. NI. You had NI Monty, you had Lotzi, Boxhead, Astoria, Queens. Good criminals. They pushed 357 down with us. I met up with those guys around 86 after meeting PK. And I didn't do any real graffiti with NI. I've hung out with them guys. They were more like the art department of 357, like the guys that were doing whole cars and pretty stuff. And like KK1, 357, uh, NI, Lotzi, PK. Uh, then you had dudes that were doing the insides like Jaff. All those guys were from Astoria, Queens. All very good criminals. They were all well known on the double R trains. I'm going to put some pictures on of those guys. I've, I don't actually remember myself actually doing graffiti with NI. I remember hanging out with him, being there when he's doing stuff, but those guys, they were actually writing and doing a lot of shit before they even met me. And then when they met me, it was kind of like the best thing that could happen to 357 at that point because all the Manhattan 357 guys from the IRT lines and stuff started fading out. Gary Sash at that point, he kind of already had a lot of insides and it was up so much. Gary Sash, um, he was writing with Des and Pate, and they had a lot of ceilings, a lot of good, they were up a lot. They started fading out. He was kind of getting into bodybuilding, but still writing with us. Um, Yeah, a couple of things had steered him more towards bodybuilding, and he left graffiti completely, maybe a year or two after that, around 87, 88-ish. All right. Yeah, those guys hung out with Lace more. I know Lace used to go to the beach and shit like that, actually chill with them more like in a friendship level. But yeah, those guys were putting it in, man. They did a lot of whole cars, a lot of fucking top to bottoms, man. Yeah, KK1 was the sole force behind those guys, I believe. KK1, Nick. And I don't want to talk, I almost fell. I don't want to talk too much about it because those guys are still alive. And maybe one day I could get them to send me, like, they could email me, like an interview where they just talk about their life and send it to me. Or I could call them on my son's phone or something and do it like we did with Lee 3. So I don't want to get into it too much. It'd be better to actually hear it from their mouths. But yeah, no, those guys there out in Queens, man, I'll tell you, I learned the whole throw up filling or whatever you guys call them nowadays. I learned that whole game from those guys, man. Before that, I was just smashing insides. Like I said, Rook, MPC up in the twos and fives there. Bumped into him once. He kind of, I was young looking at it and wow, this, that. And he was talking to me about fill-ins and bubble letters and shit. And I kind of designed my thing based off of him and what he said about Broomhilda, the comic book strip, and just use those kind of letters. Um, Never really went into it hard, like not to the level I did when I bumped into those guys from Queens. Like if I was to do a fill-in, like I'd literally maybe have a can of silver on me, and then I'd have like 6 or 7 cans of black, and I would just do like almost like a blockbuster, and I'd use the rest of the black on the insides of the train. So like I'll do like one big bubble letter fill-in type thing with the can of silver, and I'll outline it with black, and then the rest of the black paint I'd write on the insides with it. Now, in some of these pictures, and in one of these pictures, you'll also see Jaff. Yeah, Jaff. Now, that dude was up a lot too on the insides. TPW is another guy that was from there. Chrysler, Mac. Um, I learned a lot. Like I'd say the first person I really learned a lot from, as far as it goes with fill-ins, would be Ripe. He did the RP fill-ins on the outsides of the INDs and the BMTs, the letter lines. Also, OA, Nash. he wasn't really from Astoria, but he was involved with those guys. I learned a lot from him. Yeah, like I said before that, if I was to do a fill-in, I would just fill it in, outline it, this and that. It wasn't even a fill-in. I was looking at it more as like I'm doing a blockbuster. Well, when I hooked up with those guys, I really started just going by, do the silver outline or white outline, fill it in, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one until you run out of fill-in paint. And you go all the way back to the beginning and you start throwing outlines on the wall. I learned that from them. I've bumped into other writers that did a lot of fill-ins and they pretty much did the same thing. So I guess that was like a universal law. At first you run around, do all your fill-ins, you fill them all in, and then you go back to the very first one and you start throwing your outlines on every single one of them. Whereas, like me, I was just doing one and it's kind of large. It would be like from a door to door, solid fill-in, like a whole panel or something like that. I didn't even nip halfway into the windows because I'm tall. And I would just do like a big blockbuster or something, just one of them. And I would jump on the insides till I run out of black spray paint or blue or whatever the hell color I decide to do the outline with. I would do. That's normally what I was doing up until the moment I met those guys. That's why I say I'm really not a fill-in guy. Now, just on the area of fill-ins, and I had a lot of fill-ins, but I think he's more well known for all those whole cars he was doing with KK and PK and them. I did a lot. Yeah, they did a lot of top to bottoms, man. A lot of pretty shit too, not just big silver and black fillings and stuff like a lot of these other Queens and Brooklyn guys would do. They're more into the vandalism aspect of it rather than doing pretty stuff. But these guys, yeah, they were pulling off some shit, man. Yeah, a lot of that shit was looking like FBA style, TC5 or something. They were going in there on it. Oh yeah. What else could I say about them? Yeah, cool dudes. I'm gonna try and get them on one day. KK's still around. Maybe I could get him to call him up or something, have him talk or something. Or maybe have a video he could hide his face or whatever. I don't know. He's not really into graffiti anymore. He's got his life to live. So does NI. Jeff's still around too. Jeff, I could probably call him one day or something like that. Maybe have PK come over. I'd probably have his phone number or something like that laying around somewhere. I could get in touch with him on here or something. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to actually do that because those are guys you don't really hear much about, and their story should be told, man. Like, I knew them just straight up as criminals, man. They were criminals. Like, that's more or less what I would do with them. Like Jeff, I don't ever remember writing graffiti with Jeff at all. Like, I never remember doing insides or outsides, going to a layup with Jeff at all in my life, but he stole a lot of car radios, that dude. He was out there robbing and stealing. He'd come through our neighborhood with PK. PK and Jeff, they were like Siamese twins or something. It's like sewn at the hip. They were out there tearing shit up, partners in crime. And I also, like I said, Monty, um, Lodsey Ross, brother Ross. You have Ken from out there. Ken, he's still around too. I talk to him sometimes, on Instagram and stuff. And I could probably get him on one day. I don't think he don't really shy away from being a graffiti writer or anything. He has no quorums about saying, "Yo, I did that shit right there. That's me." So Ken, I could probably definitely get on. We still have a pretty good relationship. We talk to each other every so often. Hell, he came by here. We go out for dinner or something like that every so often. But yeah, big old Ken, man, he's a trip, man. He's a good dude, man. Me and Ken did some shit, man. Yeah, I'll tell you, funny shit, not even graffiti shit. We were out there, man. Ken's a good dude, man. Got nothing but love for him. And I won 357. He's actually on Instagram. I don't know if I should be blowing him up like that, but his Instagram is NIONE 357, like NI1 357. So if you have any questions or about him or anything, you can ask him on there. And yeah, I'm gonna try and reach out to him and see maybe one day, not right now because I'm just dropping this about him. So, maybe in the months coming or something like that in the summer or something like that, because he's always getting in touch with me. He was always on my lives also for a while, but unfortunately I had to shut that shit down. I can't continue on with my lives. But yeah, he was always commenting on there and, verifying things or correcting me in certain areas where it falls under Queens or something like that, things that aren't within my realm. I'm more like Manhattan. And like I said, those guys, most of them, well, all right, let me put it this way, like Lotzi and KK1, PK falls both ways. Um, shit, there's a couple other guys I don't want to forget, man. But yeah, those guys were more like the art department. What I mean is like they would hang out with KK and Lace a lot, and they would do whole cars and pretty stuff, pieces, burners, wild style shit. That's what they were into. And if not, they would do fill-ins on the outsides and stuff. Now, that's what I mean by the art department. That was very important because without those guys, without like Lace and Kaya, KK1, people like that, and 357 would just be a bunch of guys running around doing fill-ins and insides and shit like that. So the art department was very important. I fell more under the security and like human resources. Yeah, I would be more like human resources or security type thing. Like I'd make it so people didn't want to fuck with their shit. Because if they, like, yeah, we were more like like me, JJ. Nash falls both ways too. Nash, because he used to do, Nash OA from out in Brooklyn, because he would also do like big, huge whole cars and under the windows pieces. And he would also do a lot of fill-ins. Like that dude had a lot of OA fill-ins going, man. And a lot of insides. Insides with me. And I bumped into him doing insides. He pulled out a gun on me. Yeah, me and John. We were in the Astoria layup doing insides like 11 o'clock in the morning, during school time or something. But I was in school, and I don't think John was either. John about 4 years younger than me. But we're in there, we're getting through, we're just like we hop right in at the station and just start going through. We were young. If shit popped off, we run. It's like, yeah, you go in and you do your shit. So we're going through, we're just past the station into the next car. All of a sudden, the conductor booth opens up. Yeah, 9 millimeter pointed at my head. I go, oh, shit. And it wind up we had no beef or nothing, so we wind up hanging out, becoming like best of friends and shit. Yeah, shit. Thank God I had problems with him. I had problems with a lot of people, but more or less on the IRT lines. You see, that's what I could really thank those Astoria guys for, is like the IRT lines and like the dudes that I was actually just starting into this and I got off conversation. But before meeting them guys, like the IoT lines and the writers that I was writing with, they're kind of like falling out. They're like not really writing anymore, losing interest. Like I said, Gary Sash was becoming like a bodybuilder, and Kaya at that point was starting to slow down and shit like that. So Lace, he don't give a fuck. He keep going. Shit. Yeah, Lace didn't give a fuck. So he was kind of like a unicorn in the situation. He don't give a fuck what train it is. Me, I was more like, I like the IRTs. I always looked at the letter lines, like the BMTs and the INDs. I always looked at them as like the Long Island Railroad or like the Metro North. I looked at like they were kind of always getting buffed and they looked all weird. They weren't all ratchety and shit, and they were big. So I never really concentrated on them, but them dudes from Astoria gave me reasons to concentrate on them. And also the fact that the IRTs, like the fours, shit like that, was starting to turn into new trains. So bouncing over and hanging out with those guys gave me a whole new avenue of shit to hit. Like I really wouldn't have wrote on a lot of shit that I actually wrote on if it wasn't for those guys. Ripe, especially Ripe has brought me to a lot of like IND and BMT layups. OA Nash, top of the list, man. That dude brought me everywhere, man. I was hitting trains I didn't even know fucking existed, man. True story. But yeah, and like I said, Nash, OA, he was affiliated with those guys, but not necessarily living in that area. Another person I would go with a lot, all the time, was Form, Chinese fella, Form. He also wrote Pacer on the letter lines. Pacer, Form, Form. Pacer, he would spell it with a K. I did a lot of insides with him. Like that's one good thing with form. Like a lot, like I said, a lot of the dudes I was coming up with, they already were starting to fall off and like not write no more. So when I got in touch with form and started writing with form, here's another guy with PK and them. I caught him breaking into a car in my neighborhood here. Started a good conversation and we hung out. But when I bumped into form, his name was Tommy. He was always down. Always with it. He didn't give a fuck. Like the Sixers, I'm like, I don't know, these shits are hot. He's like, come on, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's go, let's go, let's go. He was always with it to go, and that's kind of like how I was. And even at that point, when shit was slowing down, so bumping into those guys actually made it so we would keep on and head in a whole different direction, to be truthful with you. As far as it goes with me as a vandal, yeah, it opened a lot of doors for me bumping into those guys, and it was a great friendship that still lasts till today. These people, yeah, I had nothing but great times, good times with them all, and yeah, I remember him real well. We had fun shit, man, good times. All great human beings, man. Um, I don't know I think he's Greek. Most of those guys are Greek. Yeah, all those guys from Astoria are Greek. Well, Spick is another guy that wrote with them. Spick, you'll see pictures of him. He's obviously Spanish. Um, Nash was Spanish. Ripe was Spanish. Um, yeah, I don't know, because a lot of you guys think that we were all like, I don't know, like racist or something, is the way it was brought to me. But to be truthful, bordered on a line of Harlem. More people are probably Spanish and black that were down with me than any other race, to be truthful with you. Um, yeah, all right, people. Check out the footage, man, and y'all nothing but love and respect to my man. And I won 357. Boom. Another person I forgot to mention, it's from Astoria, Queens, who I probably dumped out the most spray paint with from Queens would probably be Sear 357. Yeah. Sear. SERE 357. I did a lot of fucking graffiti with that dude, man. That's one dude I'd be painting until I'm fucking tired, man. We used to do huge stompers, man. I got pictures of it all. One day I could do it. Like I said, to each and every one of those guys at Queens, you can't wrap that shit up in one little episode, man. That's crazy. I could go on for just probably about 2 or 3 years just talking about Astoria, Queens, and the writers from Queens and the damage I've done with those guys, man. For real. But Sears at the top of the list, man. I dumped out so much paint with that dude, man. Yo, we used to just do huge stompers, man. He'd come up with a good spot where we could get loose, man, get big, huge shit. And I'd be like, yo, let's do this. Sear, definitely, 100%, man. Yeah, in my talkings, I forgot to mention, like, shit, Sear. There's so many of them. Awe, which wrote AWE. Just so many of them dudes, man. Like I said, Max with TW, TPW, the party writer. Um, so many of them dudes, man. Definitely, I can't forget Sear, man. That dude, man, shit. Fuck yeah, man. Definitely 100%. Probably did more with him than any of those guys, man. I mean, Ripe in OA, we were going hard, but we were doing little fill-ins. And I remember it would take about 7 to 10, 15 cans with us or something each. But with Sear, we would literally dump out 15, 20 cans each, like on an occasion. Yeah, me and Sear were doing huge blockbusters, man. His saying was, yo, go big or go home, man. Like, don't even bother if it's small. Yeah, big dude too, man. Yeah, in this next picture I want to show you guys, it's with that's Lace sitting on a bucket and KK in front of him. And the rest of the pictures, they're kind of self-explanatory. You can see who's what, where, and when. All right, peace.